Hello everybody and welcome to another video. In this video, I basically want to introduce common ways I see people get for loops wrong. As a result, they spend hours debugging and trying to figure out why their loop is not working. I've seen so many mistakes, and in this video, I basically just want to help you clarify those mistakes. Hopefully, you don't make those same mistakes I see people make. The first common mistake I see people make is they will have a non-initialized variable, meaning they will get the first part of the loop wrong, meaning they will not have their variable initialized. Let me go ahead and comment that out. I haven't really talked about non-initializing variable. That's because I wanted to introduce it in some video later on. In this case, this is the right video for it. You'll often see other instructors or other coding courses where they will talk about it right away as soon as they introduce variables, or you'll see them introduce it later on. But the whole idea is you could have a variable that looks like this: int I, and just have a semicolon. We're going to compile it. Or, sorry, let me just go ahead and compile it. This is known as a non-initialization, meaning that you've created the variable, but you haven't really set or initialized it to any value. If you plan to use that variable later on, you'll get a compiler error telling you that that variable has not been initialized. For example, let's just say I want to print that variable out. System.out.println I. You will get a variable looks like this: error, variable I may not have been initialized. Hint, that's what the compiler is telling you, meaning you've created the variable. Okay, that's good. You'll compile. But if you plan to use it later on, you have to initialize it. So that's just the idea of a non-initialized variable, meaning that if you have to give the value, the variable when you create it, you always have to give it a starting value. In this case, I want to start at 0. This will actually work if I compile it, run it. It will be 0. Um, so what does this have to do with for loop? Let me go ahead and uncomment out this business. Uh, and I think some of you guys were asking how I was able to comment out a bunch of lines of code like that. Again, it's control slash. I got a few questions regarding that. Again, it's control slash. If I wanted to comment out this whole thing, I just do control slash. And if I want to uncomment out the whole thing, control shift slash. I'm not sure about Mac. You'll have to look it up. But that's just that. But the common issue I see with people is they will get the initialization wrong, meaning they will create the variable and they will start working with it, but the variable has no value. So if I compile it, you will see I get the same error. Error variable I may not have been initialized. That's just the one common issue. Again, this issue doesn't often happen, but it often happens, and that's just because students don't really understand variables, and it's probably the first time working with it, and that's probably why. But if you guys watched the video up to this point, you'll probably know that you need to initialize the variable. You probably won't get it wrong from now on. I hope not. But that's just the first issue I see, which is the mistakes that beginners make, which is not initializing the variable in the loop. But another mistake I see people make is they will not have semicolons. For example, they will not have a semicolon here. You could see that even the compiler is hinting and telling you you need a semicolon right here. That's just another mistake. It can also happen here. Same thing. You can see you need a semicolon right there. So that's just basically the idea of a loop, that the mistake that I see people make. There's also another very, very common mistake I see in loops, and you'll probably, I deal with this most of the time. I feel like I struggle with this even till this day. Often I will get something wrong, and that has to do with your test. Let me just say, let's say I had I is greater than or equal to 10. Let's just say I was going too fast and I tried to compile it and run it, and perhaps you'll be like, why is my code not running? I guarantee you I did write the loop. I had the initialization, I had the test, I have the update, but nothing's being printed out. And yeah, you'll spend countless hours trying to figure out what's going on. What's going on here? That's because the test determines whether the loop should run or not. So let's just go ahead and see what this does. Int I equals 0. And what are we saying here? I is greater than or equal to 10. So let's just see. What is I set to? I set equal to 0. Is 0 greater than or equal to 10? No, it's not. Because this condition invalidates to false, this loop will not run at all. So because that's why nothing's being printed out, the loop nothing gets run at all. So that's just the idea of another mistake I see people make is because they get their test wrong. Um, because the loop will always go, uh, I will never be greater than equal to 10, no matter how long you will do it. It will never be greater than equal to 10. As a result, the loop won't even run. So let's just do that. I is less than or equal to 10. Let me go to compile it, run it. That's how to fix it. And this is the most common issue. Again, I feel like this is the mistake that at least I will say. Again, I'm just getting these statistics out of my mind. I'm just saying it randomly, but I feel like at least 75% of the people that programmed have dealt with this issue. At least I wouldn't even say. I would probably say like 95% of people that coded, probably 100% of people that coded, have dealt with this issue at least one time, which is a loop that runs forever. So the idea is because we talked about how it goes initialization, a test, and an update. The update has to be something that gets you closer and closer to your test, causing it to fail. For example, let's just say I didn't have an update. I just had this. Let's just compile it. Again, it will work because the program assumes you know what you're doing. But if I go and run it, you can see the program just never stops. It just keeps running over and over again, probably till eternity, and probably till the day this computer breaks, or until you close the app. This program will just keep running and running. It will never stop. Let me end it. Ended by the user. That's just the idea of what happens when you have an infinite loop. This is known as an infinite loop. And I feel like probably 100% of programmers have dealt with this before. Infinite loop meaning the loop never stops running. It could be that you got your update wrong. For example, let's say you're counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and your variable starts at like a number like 1 and it goes to like a number 10. Probably your update, let's say there's another common issue where you do I minus minus, meaning I goes 0, -1, -2, -3, and that will always be less than or equal to the 10. A negative number will always be less than a positive number. So this will also cause your loop to keep running forever and ever and ever. So that's just basically the idea that I see a lot of programmers make. There's also other issues that people have, meaning it could be that they're printing something wrong or they're doing something else wrong, or curly brace issues. But the mistakes I've highlighted is what I've seen a lot of people make when they're first using for loops, or later on you'll probably make this mistake a lot. Is they will get these things wrong, or they will have some issues, and hopefully you are able to track down these issues, and hopefully I hope you don't make the same mistakes. Again, if you do, no hard shaming that, it happens. But yeah, thanks for watching this video, and I will see you in another video.